To remove or not to remove petrol subsidy? Well, that's one question Nigerians are looking to get answers to as a new administration beckons. For the World Bank, Nigeria's fiscal situation, particularly the huge budget deficit, is a pointer to why the decision should be made as soon as possible. The World Bank Country Director for Nigeria, Mr. Shubham Chaudhry, says that this is why the institution is offering Nigeria the $800 million loan to cushion the effect of subsidy removal. I spoke with him earlier from our Abuja studio. Over 5 trillion naira estimated to be spent on subsidy for 2023. That's if it's not removed by June. So the World Bank's position on subsidy is clear. It should be removed. But how do you convince the labor unions, for example, the poor, the vulnerable, and those who will be impacted the most on this subsidy removal move?
I think I would begin with basically presenting to them the choice that really is theirs to make, which is, would you rather have 5 trillion of the government's scarce resources going towards subsidizing PMS, where, yes, everyone benefits a bit from having PMS being at a slightly lower price, but most of the benefits don't go to the poor, don't go to ordinary Nigerians. If you look at the National Bureau of Statistics household surveys, the bottom 40% of the population only purchases about 3% of the PMS that NNPC gives the bill to the Federation for. Then all households put together, maybe about 25%, and the rest, firms, businesses, and most importantly, potentially those who are looking to make lots of money and rents from smuggling across the border to neighboring countries where the price of PMS is a lot higher. So what I would say to the labor unions, to ordinary hardworking Nigerians is, would you rather see the money go towards subsidizing, basically the benefits that are largely going to the rich and to smugglers, or would you rather have government put those towards primary health care, towards keeping kids in school, towards connecting farmers to markets, to investing in better security for everyone? So that would be the starting point. But I would also acknowledge that if subsidies are removed, the prices will go up. I don't think they will go up. We don't think they will go up as much as some fear, but prices will go up. So it is important that government do take steps to provide some relief, to soften the blow of rising prices for ordinary Nigerians. And one can think of a variety of measures. And in fact, the facility that you mentioned is one that we have made available, should Nigeria choose to draw it down, to provide targeted cash transfers in a very robustly verifiable way to ordinary Nigerians.
I mean, we see that move has begun already at the National Assembly, but you still put the caveat, should Nigeria? And the question naturally is, so which of the administrations is this facility going to? Is it the outgoing administration or the incoming administration?
Our financing is always to the sovereign, so a government takes that on. But the key thing about this facility is that until a government actually starts drawing down concessional financing that we provide, the government can always opt out, can change. So basically, the fact that our board has approved it does not mean that Nigeria is now obligated to draw it down. We hope that the government, both the incoming government at this stage, will think that this is an important part of the overall package, the compact that government, political leaders at all levels need to have with the Nigerian people, saying that, look, we have to take this necessary step of removing PMS subsidies, but we will ensure that the recovered revenues will be used for the benefit of everyone, and we will help try to provide immediate relief, cushion some of the pain by providing targeted cash transfers. So we certainly hope, let me be clear, we certainly hope that the incoming government, the National Assembly, the public at large will think that this is worth doing and our financing is available. But I do want to make clear that the fact that our board has approved it, that the current government has decided that they would like to draw it down, the incoming government, the National Assembly, the public at large has a choice. If everyone thinks this is worth doing and it is drawn down, only then does this add to Nigeria's debt, which I know is on everyone's mind.
Indeed. And that is a fear for a lot of people. They look at the debt burden where it is now and they just do the math, add the $800 million to it. And I mean, you probably have seen all of the headlines and the conversation around that. But what's the propriety really of, getting this loan when the idea of removing PMS subsidy is to free up funds? So why borrow when, if you remove it, you'd actually free up funds anyway?
So I think that's a very valid point, but I think everyone needs to be clear on the fact that whether or not Nigeria takes on this $800 million in additional concessional, highly concessional financing, Nigeria's, if you look at the budget for 2023, the projected deficit is already 10.7 trillion naira. And that's if PMS subsidies are removed by the end of June. If PMS subsidies are not removed by the end of June, the deficit will be 12 trillion naira or more. And that's just plain algebra. And then the question is that deficit has to be financed. So the fact is that Nigeria will be taking on more debt to finance the deficit. At this point, unfortunately, with revenues being as low as they are, Nigeria has no choice. So the question is, how do you finance that deficit? Is it going to be 10.7 trillion or 12 trillion? And the financing from us is one part of the financing that's available. You can go to the domestic market, you can go to the Eurobond market. So there are other choices, or you can borrow from the central bank, as unfortunately has happened in the past with the ways and means financing. All of those sources of financing are quite expensive. So the choice is, one, already there's a 10.7 trillion deficit, even if PMS subsidies are removed. Right? So one choice is to just use the recovered revenues to borrow less. But then the choice for Nigeria is, does the public need to see some benefits from having PMS subsidies removed?